I'm Danielle, your host of the Abridged to Motherhood podcast, the place where moms like you learn to thrive, not just survive through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. I'm a birth and postpartum doula and a mom of two who's been where you are. My first pregnancy was filled with so much excitement, but it was also marked by stress, anxiety, and fear of the unknown. I thought I had everything mapped out, but when postpartum hit, I realized how unprepared I was for the physical, emotional, and mental toll of motherhood. It was overwhelming, lonely, and nothing like I imagined. When I found out I was pregnant again, I knew I needed to approach things differently. I made it my mission to not only prepare for postpartum, but to prioritize myself in the process. That shift changed everything. Now I'm here to help you do the same. Whether you're navigating your first pregnancy, feeling buried under endless advice, or struggling to figure out what you actually need for postpartum, this podcast is your safe space. You'll find practical tips, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you feel informed, supported, and empowered through every stage of motherhood. If you're ready to feel confident, prepared, and truly supported in your motherhood journey, stick around. This is for you. Welcome back to the Abridged to Motherhood podcast. I am so excited. We have a guest episode today. I am here with Abby Dosen. She is a busy mom to 3 little girls and the author of Realistic Self-Care for Moms, a guided journal for taking care of you while taking care of them. Abby is a former English teacher with a bachelor's degree in middle childhood education from The Ohio State University. She shares her passion for reading and experiences in mom life on her Instagram platform at A Dosen Books. Abby, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here and to talk about your book and journaling and all things motherhood.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited about your book coming out. Mine is in the mail as we speak. Tell everyone a little bit about how you got into this authorship journey and what made you want to specifically do a book and a journal combo.
Yes, I became a mom about 5 years ago now, a little over 5 years ago, and journaling has always been important to me. As I kind of was going through the process of motherhood and shaping into the mom I am today, I really relied heavily on journaling throughout. And it's interesting because I kept looking for a journal that would kind of put all of these pieces together. And I was looking on Amazon, going to local bookstores, looking on Target, and I just couldn't find it. And when I talked to my publisher, I said the same exact thing. I couldn't find it. So I sat down and kind of started journaling myself. And as I worked through in an actual physical notebook, I realized maybe I should shift onto the computer. And it went from all of my little checklists and all my ideas into actual chapters. And before I knew it, I had written the whole entire book.
Can you talk about what made you fall in love with journaling and specifically in your motherhood, like why that became a part of your self-care?
Absolutely. As I was mentioning, journaling's always been a part of my life, but I felt like when I became a mom, I really started to rely heavily on it because I had all these initial feelings of what motherhood was supposed to look like and how I was kind of shaping up in terms of that definition of motherhood that I had pictured in my head. So getting those emotions down on paper helped me get out of my head and really start to get clear on what I was doing really well, what I was proud of, what areas I wanted to work on, and kind of putting all of those two things together. And at the same time, giving myself the grace to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes, and then celebrating the moments that I really flourished, because a lot of motherhood is filled with thankless tasks. And a lot of it can also be filled with self-doubt and questioning if we're doing it right. And seeing all of these things down on paper, it just brought me this peace. You're doing a good job. You're going to get there where you want to get to. You're going to continue to have challenges, and that's okay. You're going to make it through.
I love what you said about celebrating. We don't do
Yeah.
that enough. We don't
Hmm.
sit down and reflect and think about how far we've come, and even just giving yourself a little pat on the back. It doesn't have to be an extravagant celebration, but look at where I started and look at where I am now in
Yeah.
motherhood. I know it's hard for moms sometimes to feel like they can find the time for any form of self-care. And what I love about your book, it's so unique because it's combining self-care with journaling to allow us to reflect on those practices and kind of bring the two together. Let's talk to that mom that's like, I can't add one more thing to my plate. Why is this the right thing to add to her plate as far as her self-care journey and working towards wholeness?
Yeah. The thing about self-care, the thing about journaling, reflecting, all of these things, it's so uniquely personal. And somewhere along the lines, we were told self-care has to be these elaborate, big, planned out things. And when you keep waiting for a girls' weekend or waiting for a date night with your spouse, or, all of these bigger things that require planning and time and energy and money and
Hmm.
babysitters and all of those things, you're going to be left feeling like you're crawling to self care. And in reality, if you take care of yourself on a day to day basis, you won't hit that rock bottom and you won't feel like you desperately need to get away, to
Hmm.
escape, to be alone. And I mean, you still will have those moments when
Of
you need
course.
that, even when you are taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. But what my book does is has you really look through each of these types of needs and meeting those individual needs on a day to day basis and figuring out what those needs actually are, because they're not the same as maybe your best friend or your sister or your own mom or the mom from the daycare or preschool or something. We're all so different. And
Hmm.
we need to figure out what makes us feel worthy and loved and cherished and cared for. And I really do think that moving through my journal will help mom get to the bottom of that and figure it out.
Love that. So talk about kind of the different types of needs that you walk through in the journal.
Yes, absolutely. The journal starts off where you are looking at your more basic needs. So we're evaluating how are we doing in terms of what we're eating? What about our sleep? Thinking about our hydration, all of those basic needs. You need to have those met before you can do anything else. If you are exhausted and don't get me wrong again, I know moms, we're tired. We are. It's sometimes unavoidable, but maybe that's the need we need to prioritize first. And
Hmm.
then we work through looking at some different personal needs, looking at hygienic needs. Like, how do you feel in your clothing? Things that might seem so simple, but we hear this ever present joke: the kids are perfect, picture perfect ready, photo ready, and we've got spit up and a rip in our pants and, need a
Hmm.
new shirt, all of the above. And on a really basic level, it might be funny, but it's also kind of sad. We
It
need to
is.
take care of our presentation, what we look like, how we feel. That's an outward representation of us. Um, then we shift more into our social needs, and this is a big one that I think gets really muddied once you become a mom, because we have our pre-motherhood social calendar, and then once we become moms, sometimes we feel as if we need to still be doing everything we did before. And that's not true. You might want to do some of those things, but some don't even apply anymore.
Right.
It's not cup filling anymore. So
Hmm.
getting to the root of what we need socially, and then we shift all the way up to your fulfillment needs. And that was something I experienced firsthand, having left teaching and staying home with my daughters. I felt this hole in fulfillment. I didn't know I was getting some of that fulfillment from my role as a mom, but I was missing this creative piece. And and I think working through and writing my journal, my first draft helped me figure out writing could be that fulfillment piece, and maybe journaling could be that for for other moms too.
Yeah, I love that so much. And, I'm a former English teacher too. And when we're going through our training as teachers, or if you're in the field of psychology, you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we have to start at the bottom with those basic needs, like you said, like our nourishment and our sleep. And as a postpartum doula, like that is my role in new mom's life is to make sure that those
Mhm.
basic needs are met so that they can take care of their babies and then flourish. And I love that the journal starts out that way because no matter where you are in your motherhood journey, it's just so easy to take a back seat. You're just so busy taking care of everyone else that we forget to take care of ourselves in that most basic way. And once you kind of move through that and take the time to really reflect, which the journal allows you to do, you can start to add in that social piece again because now you have that energy again and you
Mhm.
can add in that creativity piece again.
Absolutely.
I actually just finished reading a book by Jeannie Allen called Untangle Your Emotions, and that's exactly there was a quote from her counselor in there, and he said, "You know that you're healing when you can have that time and space to feel creative again." And I loved
Hmm.
that. It was like such a good
Yes.
picture for moms and kind of like a check mark of like,
Mm.
okay, I'm not feeling that way. So maybe I need to go back
Yeah.
and do some work. And I love that your journal allows us to kind of start there and build slow because it can feel intimidating at any stage to start a new habit or start to care for yourself again when you've, taken a back seat for so long. So
Hmm.
let's talk about what realistic journaling looks like in this busy time of early motherhood and even beyond, because as they get older, then they're in all these activities. So, what does that look like using your journal and then even beyond that? How would you explain to a mom, like, listen, you can do this? Let's break
Yes.
it down for her.
Absolutely. The biggest misconception I think about journaling is that it has to be some big to do. And you have to sit down every single day at the same exact time. And it has to be fill the entire page and almost gives you the feeling of you sit down and it's like a test. This is not a test. There's no grade.
Mm-mm.
There's no right way to journal and there's no right time and it doesn't have to be the same day to day or week to week or month to month. My journaling practice, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for years and I have tried out so many different formats and bopped back and forth between different formats of journaling too. And that doesn't make me any less of a journaler. So
Right.
if you are in a busy season of life, maybe you just start small. And if you really want to make this a priority, I would say do a line a day. And you can buy journals online, Amazon, Target. They have great, really cute options where it'll have maybe a little prompt and you're writing a sentence. Or even if you don't want to write in complete sentences, you can just jot down your feelings. Some of them are blank, so maybe you could use it as a gratitude line a day. I've even seen people in their planner. I'm going to write a line right there in my planner. I've always
Hmm.
got it with me. I already have it. I'm writing in it, so there's no pressure to make it perfect and not
Right.
mess it up. Um, and I think starting small like that really can help the person who's frozen thinking, I don't have the time. I don't know where I'll fit this in. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write. Um, that can kind of eliminate all of that pressure and just get you started. And the same thing when you look at my own journal, it's meant to be done slowly. So it's very low pressure. My sister-in-law was telling me, I really want to get back into reading and I really want to get back into journaling, but I'm so nervous because I don't know if I have the time or if I'll know what to say. Just all of those fears that every
Hmm.
mom kind of mentions. And I said, well, here's my book. You're going to love it because I'm telling you, you only need to do it for a few minutes, maybe each day, maybe not even each day to get you started. And the way it's set up really lends it to be kind of a slow process where you're learning how to journal.
I love that. So talk about I know there's kind of three steps in each
Mm,
of the sections. Can you talk about that methodology that you walk the readers through?
yes. So I really created these three steps within each chapter because it's kind of what I personally did to meet some of my goals. So it's tried and true for me, and I really think it's going to be helpful for other moms. So each chapter is formulated where you'll read a little bit, and that'll be based on whatever topic it is. And then at the the next section is where you're actually doing your journaling. So the first section is you're going to reflect. And the reflection part is really fun because I wanted to set it up like the quizzes almost in the magazines where you're interacting with them and you get to do checklists or little fun this or that challenges. And once you reflect on that and really dig into being honest with yourself about what you need specifically and uniquely to you, you're going to move on to a visualization practice. And I have done visualization journaling quite a bit in my life. So that would look like in my personal life, basically just writing on a blank sheet of paper. But in my book, I wanted it to feel a little more structured. So you'll have some different prompts there to guide you through visualizing what you want this category, this topic to really look like for you in life. And once you finish the reflection and the visualization, you move on to arguably the most important point that often gets forgotten. You have to grow. You have to do it. You have to apply everything that you just reflected on, everything that you just pictured and daydreamed and visualized and imagined having. You're going to practice it. And this is why I recommend moving slowly through my journal because you need to have time to really set these intentions and get them situated before you move on to the next category.
I love that so much because you're right. We do. We often talk a lot of talk, even with our friends, when we're hanging out in our mom circles, but to actually sit down and take the time to then grow, like it says in your journal, and put forth the action behind what you're visualizing so that you actually start to care for yourself
Mm-hmm.
as a mom. And you mentioned this earlier about there's this idea in our culture that self-care is this grandiose task
Mm-hmm.
that we have to accomplish, like going on this girls' trip for a weekend or going on a day-long
Mm-hmm.
spa day. But journaling is such an amazing self-care habit. It's so easy to do. It's so accessible for moms. It's something
Mm-hmm.
you can do on the go at in the morning before you plop down your head at night on your phone if you need to now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's talk about how this can help brand new moms, young moms, reconnect with themselves after baby. I know with my work as a postpartum doula, I see it so often. Don't recognize themselves anymore. I know I experienced that as a new mom, that identity
Mm-hmm.
loss. How can your journal help this brand new mom kind of reconnect and find who she is again in this season of life as a mom?
Yes, I think this is a twofold answer. So, one, I think it really gets to the root of what you actually need now.
Mhm.
And I cannot stress enough how different every single person is. For example, for me, right when I had my daughter Zoe, for some reason in my mind, whenever someone offered me help, I took it as they think I can't do this and
So
I
common.
could not accept the help. And journaling through that and working through those feelings allowed me to realize they just actually do want to help me. They don't
Mhm.
think I'm incapable. They
Right.
know I'm capable, but they also know you don't have to go at it alone. And journaling through my needs and journaling through how someone else could help with these needs, which I have in the support section of this guided journal, is so valuable to break through this. I can do it all on my own. I don't need anyone's help because that's just not the case. It does. It takes a village. And secondly, when you are working through as a new mom, I feel like you're trying to find this intersection of who you were before becoming a mom and who you are now that you are a mom. And there might be some things you thought you would love for your whole entire life, or you thought your life was going to look like this, and this. And once you start reflecting, once you start visualizing, you might realize some of those things you're ready to let go of. And that's actually not going to fit anymore in this new role that you're undertaking. So I think both of those things are so valuable to new moms.
Agreed, agreed. And anytime that we can make that space to reflect, I think we'll surprise ourselves with what we find and get to know ourselves now because we're always changing and evolving and as our kids go through different phases, their needs change, so then our needs change too.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. I love how that we'll be able to keep coming back with your journal and reflecting again and using those same prompts, as we progress through our motherhood journey. And I know we talked about this previously, but who would you say this journal is meant for?
Yeah. So, you know, I get this question a lot, and a lot of people think maybe it would only be for new moms. And I have to disagree. I think it would be great, yes, for new moms, but also for moms with kids in middle school or high school, or even moms who are moving into the phase of my kids are going away to college and I'm trying to kind of re-find myself, because all of these stages of motherhood are still motherhood. You never stop being a mom. So you're always going to need to take care of yourself, and it might look different. It might be, you might have a little more time as your kids get older because you don't have the constant demand of, I need snacks, I need this, I need that.
Mhm.
So some of the moms who are more seasoned might laugh at some of my stories and maybe look back fondly. Oh, I remember that phase. Still think the journaling prompts are going to be so valuable to moms in any age and stage, truly.
And I know the journal is geared toward women who are extremely busy. And if you're a mom, we know you're busy. And you kind of address some of the common misconceptions of journaling that it's got to take a lot of time or it has to be done a certain way. I know so many of us, and especially probably who listen to my podcast because I talk a lot about being a type A mom and those perfectionist tendencies. Let's talk about if she feels like she's not doing self-care right, quote unquote. What do you want her to hear about self-care and how it relates to the journal, kind of to ease some of that pressure that she puts on herself?
Yes, if you are worried about not doing self-care right, then you need to buy my journal. You need to, because in my journal, you will realize that self-care, it may seem obvious, is all about yourself. We somewhere along the lines started thinking that it is a blanket statement and there's some type of checklist that makes us check all the boxes and here we are, we did the self-care. And it's so personal, it's so unique. And everyone's lives, their support system, the amount of children, the difficulties they may face, the things that come easily, everything is so different. And so, why would we ever think that self care is going to be the same across the board? I specifically wrote all of these chapters and wrote it as a guided journal because I knew a book would not suffice. Women need to be able to sit down and think about themselves as they read this and as they work through the prompts. And once you look through things on a personal level, then you can actually get to the root of what you need and you can make those changes and grow into your needs and really find peace, clarity, calm, worthiness, love, the feeling of being refreshed, all of those things that we aspire for in motherhood and in life in general. We can achieve that when we get serious and vulnerable and honest about what those things truly are for us, not what society or friend groups or whomever is telling us it should be.
Yes, taking that word should out of our vocabulary. It's
Hmm.
so hard,
Yeah.
especially like you said, comparison. And then with social media, putting on that next layer of this is what it looks like to be a perfect mom. And there's just no such thing. And there's no such thing about the perfect way to take care of yourself. Like you said, it's
Mhm.
so personal. And journaling is such a good way to get to the root of your needs as a mom.
Mhm.
And I just had an episode not that long ago about creating self-care habits. And that was one of the things I talked about was it can be simple. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to take forever, and you
Mhm.
have to find what's unique to you. I'm so excited for your book to come out and for people to get their hands on it because I really think it's going to transform so many women's lives, allowing them that permission to take a step
Mhm.
back and care for ourselves and reflect. And I'm just saying, if you are listening right now, this would be a great Mother's Day present. And it's so beautiful. It would make such a pretty gift. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this love you have for journaling and talking about it. I am just so excited for you and for all the moms who are going to get it. So tell us where they can find it and where they can connect with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And you can find my book pretty much anywhere books are sold, Amazon.com, Target.com, Walmart.com, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org. And then locally, I've been chatting with a couple of local boutiques, bookshops, a couple local Barnes and Noble locations. So we're crossing our fingers that you'll start to see it popping up in some local stores. If you would like to stay up to date on the info with my book, go ahead and follow me on my Instagram account, which is Abby Dosen Books. And you can also check out my website, which is adozenbooks.com, and you will find the latest news right there.
And I'm just going to give a shameless plug too to follow Abby because not only does she share about her book, but she shares about other books that she's reading. And if you're a book nerd like me, she's a great follow for good reading recommendations. I just love checking up on what you're reading right now. If you are a reader, you definitely have to give her a follow. And thank you so much again, Abby. And I will talk to you all next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Abridged to Motherhood podcast. I'm so glad you were here today. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review for the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Share it with a friend or snap a screenshot and tag me on social media. If you decide to leave me a review, go to abridgetomotherhood.com/review. That link is also in the show notes so that I can send you a little gift in the mail. Your support helps other moms to find the podcast, and it truly means the world to me. Remember, your motherhood journey deserves your care and attention. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, mama, and don't worry, I'm here to help every step of the way. See you soon.